Ryder Rohan stays true to his name in this matchup, probably more than any other, that being the High Elves versus the Skaven. That's mostly because High Elf Infantry don't actually do all that much for you here. Let's take a look at the builds, though, before this thundering band of hooves and claws makes contact, because, of course, we do have a couple of Lion Chariots in the back, a couple of Silver Helms, and 4 Reavers as well. The main reason for this is Reavers, actually, with their 40 charge bonus and fast speed, are great for breaking the chaff units, like these Skaven slaves. That 40 charge bonus can break these low-tier infantry pretty quickly. Start to roll up other units. They won't get bogged down as easily and hit by those Poison Globadiers due to their fast speed. We've got Tyrion here to support as well. Life Mage on the Chariot. Of course, Chariots are just great against Skaven in general, and we do get some good value out of that oftentimes in this matchup. Omen of Assyrian for some terror up in the air. Has some self-healing capacity as well. 1 unit of infantry for some spearmen support just to pad out the extra funds. And that's pretty much it. As for the Skaven, Ikit Claw going to be leading the way. He's got Gorich, some Poison Globadiers as well. Looks like Rat Ogres and Wolf Rats in the back protecting, the ranged units here. The 3 globes, the Avalanche Mortar is quite a bit of stopping power. A couple of Storm Vermin as well for a solid backbone with Skaven Slaves all around. Act as meat shields. Let's see how those meat shields fare against this cavalry strike force here. Going to be charging under fire. We see Howling Warp Gale hit the Omen of Assyrian there, but it's not going to take much damage because there's no rattling guns or anything. Some of those poison globes also fall foul of the Storm Vermin, do some damage there. And with the charge of the Silver Helms, and now the Chariot plowing through as well. Chariots, I should say, as the Lion Chariots are able to immediately penetrate and get into the back line. As did the Mage there on her Chariot as well. So pretty impressive stuff so far. But let's see how things progress. Ikit on his tricycle will be marauding around, doing some damage, trying to save, hopefully, for some cleansing ruins to try and do damage to some of these single entities. Speaking of which, Gorich gets tangled up with Tyrion, and 1v1 without much support. Gorich actually doesn't have necessarily the stats to take on Tyrion here, so going to be a little bit of a rough matchup for poor Gorich, as he takes some pretty significant damage. Only 30 melee defense versus the 72 melee defense and 83 attack of Tyrion, so definitely is pretty good chances for Tyrion there. He's not always going to win that fight. It's possible, I guess, that Gorich could win, but very likely Tyrion will, and we do see that here. Another Dwellers Below going to be dropped in this back line, just to nuke this Poison Wind Globe. And so far, I mean, the High Elf Cavalry is definitely very squishy. Run Reaver Forgotten here in Tactical Reserve is a little bit rough. You can see a lot of them have taken significant damage and been routed off, but it's afforded Ryder Rohan the opportunities he needs to get at those high-value targets. This, couple Rat Ogres can only be in so many places at once in order to stop the mass of this build, and especially with Gorich just being wrecked by Tyrion 1v1 in that duel, definitely opens things up quite a bit. These Lion Chariots can now be free to run around and put some serious hurt on the Skaven infantry. Storm Vermin in particular, obviously, with that armor-piercing damage. They'll be great at running down, but just in general, running through these Skaven slaves here and other units. Omen of Assyrian gets in on the Rat Ogres to try and do some damage to them. Looks like the Life Mage is going to charge in here with her Chariot. Nope, nope, nope. All 3 single entities are going to nope out of that. Try and draw some fire from the globes away from the multi-model units. As the Silver Helms get in here, Spearmen also managed to find their way onto the Rat Ogres, kind of the one target that's good for them in this particular battle. So we'll give them their moment of glory as they start to slay the beasts, drag them down. Ikit's also fighting in here, though. And the Skaven are not going quietly by any means. This range pressure, Ryder Rohan hasn't been able to fully shut down the Avalanche Mortars in particular, and they are doing significant damage to his cavalry forces. Is one thing about Elf Cavalry in general, is it tends to be pretty squishy, especially, obviously, Reavers. And they're not the cheapest in the world. They're not super expensive, but unshielded Silver Helms, too, same thing. But here, they do manage to catch alongside the Chariot and Tyrion. The Avalanche Mortars, those Silver Helms should be able to shut them down. Get some nice Earth Blood on multiple units here as well, so beautiful healing. Sustaining the High Elves' assault. Got some more globes, though, and another line here are able to get their damage over time effect on basically all of these units. But Skaven are suffering on the balance of power now, as Tyrion's still so healthy. Gorich is going to charge on in for another engagement. Tyrion manages to get Ikit soloed out here, though. And not going to be a great situation for poor Ikit. I mean, if Gorich couldn't take him on 2v1, they'd probably do a decent enough job. But 1v2 here, it's not going to be great. Let's see if Gorich can peel over to him quickly enough. We do see a Flensing Ruin going off, which will help equalize things a little bit here. But yeah, Tyrion still with Heart of Averlorn available to him. Gorich really needs to come support this fight. Yeah, peel up and around and rear charge Tyrion. Instead, he's just going after the caster here, I think, which I guess is not the worst idea in the world, but specifically for getting rid of like Tyrion and the Omen of Asuryan. Both of them have self-healing, so it's arguably less important than it would be otherwise to kill the caster, but it doesn't really matter. Skaven are going to hit army losses anyway, as the chariots were just free to run around and accrue kills, having not lost any unit models there. Silver Helms also pay for themselves for the most part, which is nice to see. And then, of course, Tyrion's going to carry quite a bit of value there. The mage on the chariot also gets some pretty good value with both Dwellers and the chariot itself. Love to see it against the Skaven. I mean, 2 Rat Ogres seems like it might be enough, but probably 4 is what you need in most matchups, especially for a faction that might go very cavalry heavy like the High Elves. And I honestly think that whether you're going, you know, with like Shadow Warriors in a very skirmish-oriented build, taking like a 12 stack of archers possibly, or going with a very cavalry-centric build like this, honestly, going infantry light against Skaven is generally the best way to go. Has been for quite some time, in my opinion. I don't know, like, if we just, we'll take a look at the High Elf infantry and kind of think through them in just a minute here, but it did okay. Avalanche Mortars definitely got quite a bit of value there, but surprisingly, the Storm Vermin mostly did pretty poorly. One of them did okay. Another unit that could probably do with the buff, so it's more on the power level of, like, Champions and Zarguards, but anyway. Yeah, the Poison Wind Globes, of course, reasonably cost-effective, a little bit less so than they used to be, but definitely an interesting one. So just thinking about High Elf Infantry here, I mean, I said already, the only good target for anti-large infantry is Rat Ogres, right? I mean, there's other Molder Monsters and stuff. They're less likely. Doom Wheels are not super common pick right now because they're not that great, but you might see them occasionally, especially Ikit on the Doom Wheel himself. But just in general, Skaven don't have that many targets for spears. And if you think about the anti-infantry and kind of generalist High Elves, I mean, they're all going to be vulnerable to Skaven's shooting, and especially the globe-type attacks with that explosion damage will do a lot to kind of mid to higher value infantry. Even despite the missile resistance of something like White Lions, for example, they're still 800 cost, and just not something you want to get blasted by bombs. And of course, this upper tier infantry, and even less so, lacking the missile resistance, that physical resistance, is not going to help you against the magical bombs of the Skaven, because of course they are magical. So yeah, definitely something to consider. You might as well just skip this unit category entirely in this matchup. I mean, maybe if you have some extra funds like we saw there, just take an extra Spearman for some additional support, but just generally stick to every other single unit type. Anyway, that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Oh yeah, Rangers are not that great anyway. They're okay. They're maybe the only infantry unit you should bring here, but even then, they're not amazing for the cost. Tend to also just die to the bombs. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll see you next time.